Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Transfer portal season is upon us. You're already seeing a ton of talented names hit the transfer portal. And I want to take a deep dive into this Florida Gators program and talk about particular position groups and players that the Florida Gators should be going after in this transfer portal cycle. And I have a feeling Billy Napier is going to get very aggressive in the transfer portal, as there's a lot of position groups that need added depth and talent too. And what excites me most about the Florida Gators is there's a ton of young talent on this football team, whether it's on campus right now from that 2023 class or coming in the 2024 class. And the best way to supplement a lot of young talent is to go get some experienced talent that you know can perform at the college football level. The best way to do that, through the transfer portal. I expect Billy Napier to get busy in the transfer portal. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. A shout out to the Florida Gator fans. You guys continue to show just a ton of support to the boys, a program that I'm high on in terms of what the future can be. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And we're going to be trying to break all these roster moves down heading into the transfer portal for the Florida Gators. So appreciate you guys rocking with us. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start at the wide receiver position. You look at the quarterback spot, like you're feeling really good about the quarterback play in Gainesville for the next couple of years. Graham Mertz, phenomenal season for Florida. You have DJ Lagway coming into the 2024 class. I want to take a look at the wide receiver position, and specifically for a certain type of wide receiver. You look at this Florida Gators wide receiver room, a guy like Eugene Wilson, probably one of the best wide receivers that we saw in the SEC last year. Extremely dynamic, extremely explosive. You have guys like Adam Mizell, Andy Jean, Jere Hawkins coming in the 2024 class. A ton of speed. What is Florida maybe missing in that wide receiver room? It's a bigger body, a more physical guy at the catch point. With Ricky Pearsall going to the NFL, I think that's probably what you're targeting in that wide receiver room, and a perfect guy to match that prototype that we just talked about, Raymond Cottrell. And if you're a Florida Gator fan who is locked in on the recruiting trail, you recognize this name, a target for Florida in that 2023 class, and kind of lives up to the billing that we asked for, right? 6'3", 220 pounds, really physical at the catch point. A guy that committed to Texas A&M, Florida was going after in that 2023 class. And with Jimbo Fisher leaving College Station, this is a perfect opportunity to go and get a bigger body in that wide receiver room who is currently in the transfer portal. The next guy I want to talk about, very similar body type, Eric McAllister from Boise State. In 10 games before he entered the transfer portal at Boise State, 47 catches for 873 yards, 5 touchdowns in only 10 games. With subpar quarterback play at Boise State with Taylon Green, think about what Eric McAllister could do with a solid quarterback like Graham Mertz, DJ Lagway, a guy that has a track background, has put up numbers at the group of 5 level, making that jump up. And again, Boise State, a higher group of 5 team. Like the jump in talent is not as big as a guy coming from the FCS. Eric McAllister, I think, would be a really exciting get for the Florida Gators. Now, here is the position that if you take a look at Florida and you have a pool of resources and you're trying to figure out where do you want to use your resources in the transfer portal, it has to be at that offensive line position, specifically the offensive tackles. Right, and this is a Florida offensive line that gave up 119 pressures. Graham Mertz was sacked 9.4% of dropbacks. That was 114th in the country. And even in the run game, only getting 4 yards per carry, that was 81st, and that is not on the running backs. We know Florida has good running backs. They were not winning up front with that offensive line. Against Florida State, 6 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss, a position group that needs to be addressed in the transfer portal. And I'll tell you what, if they hit on the offensive line position and they get Graham Mertz protected and you get a run game going, this is an offense that can be extremely dangerous with all the skill talent around him. Now, there's a couple ways you can look at the portal. And the first guy we have, Zack Rice, not in the transfer portal as of yet, but a guy that I could certainly see being in the transfer portal when it opens up on December 4th. 2 kind of prospects that I want to talk about. One, the high recruit that has all the traits, that hasn't necessarily played a ton of college football yet, but has the potential to be a good college football player. And then there's a guy that has played a lot of college football at a lower level that could be looking to make that jump up. Now, Zack Rice obviously falls into hasn't played a ton of college football yet, but sitting at 6'5", 315, extremely fluid mover. I mean, this guy was a top 20 national prospect coming out of the 2022 class, a 5-star according to 24/7 Sports. If he hits the transfer portal and Florida goes and grabs him and he benefits from a little bit of a change of scenery, as I hit my mic there, this is a guy that could play some really, really good football for the Florida Gators. The next guy I want to talk about, and a guy that I think would be another nice option, Carter Smith, just hit the transfer portal this morning. Another former 4-star recruit out of that 2022 class. Again, played a little for Indiana. He has the ability to be a phenomenal tackle. Didn't quite work out at Indiana. Obviously, they fired their head coach, so he's looking for a new destination. Carter Smith, Zack Rice, two guys that were coveted out of the high school ranks, would be really nice options for the Florida Gators to pursue. And the last guy I want to talk about, he falls under he's played a lot of football at a high level. He's just making a jump up in competition. That's Jonathan Mendoza from Yale, back-to-back first-team All-Ivy League, hits the transfer portal. And the question is not the frame or his capability, right? 6'7", 310 pounds, again, back-to-back All-Ivy League guy on 337 pass pro attempts. He only gave up 6 quarterback hurries. This guy's absolutely nails in pass protection, has played really good at the college football level. The one question mark is, can he make the jump from the FCS level in the Ivy League to SEC football for the Florida Gators? And we've seen guys make the jump, right? Osiris Torrance came from Louisiana Lafayette, made the jump from the Group of 5 to the Power 5, and was one of the best offensive linemen we've seen Florida Gators have. Jonathan Mendoza could be one of those guys. And again, prototypical tackle build with fluid athlete with that length. That's going to be on the staff to dive into Jonathan Mendoza and kind of make that decision. Is he a guy that can succeed at the SEC level? But he's a guy that I certainly would keep an eye on. Now, the next position group I want to go to is that defensive line. And we're going to the number 1 prospect in the transfer portal as we speak. And obviously won't be number 1 for long as more guys hit the portal. That's Joey Slackman, a guy from Penn, a really kind of diving into Joey Slackman, former wrestler, knows how to use his body, extremely powerful. I mean, 6'4", 300 pounds, does not look like 300 pounds because he carries 300 pounds like he's 240. Absolutely rocked up, really good at the point of attack. 28 games, he had 25 tackles for a loss, really good in the run game. And you look at the Florida Gators giving up 5.1 yards per carry. You need to continue to work in the trenches. You obviously got guys like Cameron Jackson in the portal last year. A guy like Joey Slackman would make a lot of sense for the Florida Gators in terms of beefing up the defensive line and not only getting talent, but getting depth so you can rotate guys in and out. It's a long season. It's a long game. Having big bodies that you can rotate would make a ton of sense for the Florida Gators. Next guy I want to talk about on that defensive line, Gabriel Brown Dindy. He's at Texas A&M right now from that 2022 class, so he's going into his 3rd year of college football. Former 5-star. Again, if Florida Gator fans follow recruiting, you would know this name. Top 11 national prospect at Texas A&M. He only played in 6 games this year, so this is a guy that maybe was a little overrated coming out of high school, but there's also that narrative that he might just be a guy that's buried in the depth chart. That Texas A&M front seven is one of the best in the country. And so he might have some really good game in him, just hasn't really gotten an opportunity to work it and to kind of show it. And if he hits the transfer portal with Jimbo Fisher leaving from Lakeland, Florida, I think this would make a lot of sense for the Florida Gators to go out and get potential starter, potential All-American kind of guy. He's up to 300 pounds, but at the very least, adding some depth into that class. Guys like Jafari Harvey, who are in the transfer portal from Miami, would also make a lot of sense. The last guy I want to talk about, that's going to the cornerback position. A position that just kind of underwhelmed, right? We had a lot of expectations for guys like Jason Marshall, for guys like Jalen Kimber. Did not really work out. Smoke Bowie, another guy from that 2022 class who extremely talented, just has never really put it on the field yet, had some off-the-field issues, sat out this year. And so he was at Texas A&M. He transferred to Georgia, sat out this year, now is hitting the portal again. This is another guy that you're probably at least kicking the tires on and doing some research and figuring out this stuff off the field and what that's about. there's no doubt in my mind he has the talent. Again, another top 50 national prospect. That kind of goes back to the conversation we had. We know the positions that Florida can add in the transfer portal. Offensive line, I think wide receiver is certainly one. I think defensive line in that cornerback spot. Those are kind of the positions I identified. And then how you go about it is there's a couple different transfer portal type targets. There's the guys who are really talented out of high school, like Smoke Bowie, like Zack Rice, who just haven't had the chance to play at the college football level yet, but you know they have the capability to. And then there's guys who are maybe underrated coming out of high school, have played at a very high level at maybe lower level competition that you go out and get. And I think you're going to see a blend of that. You're going to go out and get some guys with some high ceilings, and you're going to go out and get some guys with some high floors that have already played, and you know what you're getting. At the end of the day, I think it's vital for the Florida Gators to add talent and depth to this roster, specifically veteran talent and depth. You know you have the youth talent. The young talent is going to be very good for the Florida Gators. You got to supplement that with some experience. These are the positions that I kind of identified. We'll get a better sense of the players as more guys enter in the transfer portal, as there's some more buzz around it. Really excited for this process to play out for the Florida Gators, a program that I'm very optimistic about. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.